Yeah, boy.
This is the best mod to spice up your Outward gameplay. It was created by Iggy the Mad and it adds 17 brand new starting scenarios to the game. What does this mean? Well, let me show you. When you start a new character, you'll show up in a completely different area. 2 ghost-like NPCs will be in front of you and you can't really explore around at all. It keeps you in place essentially. The ghost on your right is called your Soul Guide, while the ghost on the left is called Vanilla Soul Guide. Both will give you a variety of options on how and where you want to start the game. Vanilla changes the starting location, but not your character stats. The other actually grants you a passive that modifies you into different playstyles. You'll see what I mean in a bit, but for now, let's just look at the Vanilla Soul Guide. This menu will bring up each town along with the Outward icon itself. Select the bottom icon and play the game like normal. Show up on the starting area with nothing and loot the island. Selecting Chersonese on the left instead will have you start at the actual shipwreck. This is over near the exit to Berg behind a bandit camp. You're given tattered attire, some boots, and a quarterstaff. If you remember, there is a chest here with some pretty good loot. Mainly a rondel dagger, so not a bad place to start the game. Although pretty far from town, I will admit. Select the yellow icon taking you all the way to the Hallowed Marsh. You'll spawn very deep into the swamp with leather attire and boots, along with an iron axe and plank shield. This location is actually where you would exit into the poisonous water to find Zorn's hunting dagger. Of course, you wouldn't make it with this armor, and the swamp can be a treacherous place with all those dinos about. The top green icon is for Harmattan and will take you to the Antique Plateau. You once again start with leather attire and boots, this time getting an iron great hammer and 2 bandages. This location is straight out from the clock tower on your way to the green Vigil Pylon. Also, the attention to detail here is great, as there is already a crashed rowboat near the river. Do watch out for the beast golems though, 2 of them are really deadly without good equipment. Of course, the red icon is for Levant, and selecting it will take you to the desert. You spawn on top of a pile of bones with dancer clothes and leggings. The desert Kopesh is also given to you, along with 1 full water skin. The loot's pretty good for surviving the desert, but not very defensive. This location is also very close to town, being near River's End and the Electric Lab. Oh, and free chest for something extra. The blue icon signifies Berg and will take you to the Enmerkar Forest. You'll lie sprawled on the riverbank in front of the Cabal Wind Temple, having obtained leather attire once again, but this time with an iron sword and shiv. There isn't much to loot here, but making your way to town is relatively free of hostile encounters. Of course, watch for deer. They're scary foes no matter how prepared you are. This vanilla selection offers you some gear while placing you in the wild of a different region. It's great because most of the locations start you at a spot you could reasonably see after wrecking a ship. And forcing you to find different gear than you normally run to in Cierzo is a fun idea. Then we have the ghost on the right. Here you'll see even more options, each with its own unique icon. To briefly explain how this works, you can select any of these to start in a unique location. Each grants you a bonus as well as a negative effect. They usually push you into a specific playstyle like all archery or all berserker. When you start the game with one of these, you can go into the passive skills section of your inventory and see the skill there. It can't be gotten rid of and will always be in effect on that character. Now let's check out what each of these do. Levant Beggar. Life hasn't been easy for you. You spent your days begging and suffering, but you've learned to survive despite everything. Not always by the best means. Hunger rate -20%. All weather resistance +5. Movement speed +15%. Health and stamina reduced by 20. Levant Beggar starts you out in the slums of Levant with some cheap clothing, a machete, and a shiv. Gear you would only have if you were a peasant. Of course, you must now become a hero earning money for skills after starting completely broke. Not the easiest obstacle to overcome. The reduction of both health and stamina is pretty harsh, but your survival skills are increased by a lot. For a dagger build, this would be a great way to start the game as you can play more stealthy and not worry about that negative at all. Enmerkar Hunter. Born and raised among bowmen, you've lived a simple life hunting for food and trade, but times change. Your expertise with bows will come in handy in the battles to come. Bow draw speed greatly increased. Damage dealt reduced without a bow equipped. Enmerkar Hunter is easily my favorite alternate start. It kind of forces you to use a bow or at least bow in magic. You show up in the hunter cabin back by the burning tree in Enmerkar Forest. Not only is there some nice loot to be found here, but you also start with adventurer armor and boots, with 4 raw alpha meat and a bow. I always felt this location was pretty easy to skip, but now it seems more like your home. Also, the buff to the bow is huge. You can shoot arrows much faster and take down your foes before they even know what hit them. Priest of Elatt. Elatt's light has blessed you since you were born. Your connection with the holy is so strong it feels like second nature to you. RI needs dedicated and selfless people more than ever. All damage dealt is turned into electric damage. Damage dealt reduced by 25%. Priest of Elatt starts you out in the Temple of Elatt in Monsoon. You get novice gear and iron mace in a basic chakram. Unfortunately, this location is kind of bad. Neat for sure, but you don't have any mana and there's no way to get any in the swamp. So your chakram and the skill you gain with it, Chakram Pierce, is useless. All of your damage turning into lightning, however, may well be worth it. You could pump up your damage with possibly a Tsar weapon and electrocute everything. Just beware of lightning enemies, because you're not going to do much to them. Claustrophobic. You've lived a simple life in the comfort of the city walls, until you were kidnapped into a small cell with barely any room to move. It broke something inside of you, forever. While not wearing a helmet, stamina costs, mana costs, and cooldowns reduced by 20%. While wearing a helmet, panic and lose stamina every second. Claustrophobic starts you off with mere work attire over in the Burning Tree Outpost. There's a bit of loot to grab from a chest, but your situation doesn't look good. You also need to avoid loads of dangerous enemies on your way back to the city. Not being able to wear a helmet is very interesting though. Doing so completely gets rid of your stamina quite quickly, but not wearing one gives you amazing stats. Heck, the stats you get are better than some helmets would be anyway, since cooldown is really strong and outward. Slave. You barely remember your former life. You spent so many years as a slave doing nothing but mine and overwork until you passed out. You've grown strong but fragile at the same time. Pouch size plus 5, max stamina plus 30, and physical damage plus 20%. You bleed very easily when taking damage. Slave is one of the harder alternate starts on this list. It places you in the prison under Vendeville Fortress. Getting out of here is hard if you choose to fight, and jumping down the hole doesn't feel great either. Plus 20% physical damage is a lot, but when it says you bleed easily, it means you bleed by everything. Any type of melee damage can trigger bleeding, and there is very little you can do to stop it. Slayer armor with high status resist could be a good idea, but either way, you should pack a lot of bandages. Giant Risen. You were raised by giants. You've learned their ways and ate their food your entire life. You've grown to be a force to be reckoned with. However, your recent affairs have angered the elders and you've been exiled. Impact resistance and impact dealt plus 30%. Stamina costs increased by 30% and dodge slower. Giant Risen is lore accurate. You're an outcast of the giants and sent to live on your own in the wild. In fact, as soon as you show up, the giant chief attacks you. It's a 1v1 you can't win. Your roll is much slower and with a high cost to your stamina, so all you can do is run away. Once in the wild, you're somewhat well equipped. A great axe is the weapon of a giant after all, and you can block forever. Even your armor is resistant to the poison covering the swamp. Just be very precise in battle. Giants get tired quickly. Conflux Watcher. Watcher of the ley lines and adept of the ways of magic. You spent years studying magic in seclusion and have learned the ways of the mana. Now it's time for you to help RI and those in need. Passively regenerate 0.2 mana every second. Baseline stamina regeneration reduced by 60%. Conflux Watcher spawns you inside the Conflux Mountain. You are one of the chosen who watches over the magic of Chersonese and guides others towards such power. You already have access to 60 mana, spark, the red and purple runes, and some tattered attire. Also, a lexicon, of course. Now, all you really have is Runic Sword, but that thing deals excellent damage. With some good armor and a few sigils, this might be a great start. Using no stamina as you block and win sigil and blast everything with spark. 0.2 mana regen makes this strategy much easier to pull off. War Veteran. You know nothing but war. You're a seasoned warrior who has endured the worst scenarios. You know how to fight and how to survive like no other. Despite no longer being in your prime, RI needs your sword once more. Max health increased by 50. Take up to 50% more impact as your stamina goes down. War Veteran is a bit odd. It's basically you, but you're old now. You're a strong and formidable warrior, but don't last long in battle. Padded armor and a golden machete make for okay starting loot. Also, you're in the Levant Inn, so I guess you've been somewhat rich up until this point. This playstyle is unique as losing more and more stamina means everything knocks you down in 2 hits. It's quite wild, but that extra amount of health is also very noticeable. Wolfgang Mercenary. You've lived by the sword, not a single silver earned without bloodshed. You've been hired to do terrible things, all in the name of gold. Your soul is shattered, but maybe this time, you'll do the right thing. Deal 0.5% more physical damage per current stamina point. All magic resistances -40. Wolfgang Mercenary is for more experienced players. You start in the Wolfgang camp in the Antique Plateau. I like that you give this area some more meaning, but virgin armor? Big whiff on that one. A cleaver halberd and 2 life potions isn't bad though, and you at least have some friends to begin your journey. With such a low amount of defense to elements, you are essentially a glass cannon. Get your stamina and physical damage as high as possible. Mow down enemies, but get one shot in the process. Honestly, a lot more feasible than it probably sounds. Harmattan Trader. Money is your life. Harmattan has taught you about haggling and trading, making your own little fortune, traveling all over Arai. You're to deliver goods to Cierzo, but what comes next is yet to be seen. Reduced buy prices by 20%. All resistances reduced by 10. Harmattan Trader is an extremely different start to the game. The negative is not all that bad, and reduced prices could be huge. Also, you begin the game outside Cierzo with a unique backpack. It's great for traveling, but will be destroyed if you get hit at all. At the bottom, you read requested goods for Cierzo Alchemist. I struggled to do anything with this as the alchemist doesn't actually talk about it. What you need to do is actually sell the thing to her. This will grant you 600 silver, a nice start to any playthrough. Then you could talk to the Soroborian Caravaner for 1 free ride to Harmattan. Use that money you just got for some good gear and be off on a new adventure. Survivor. Relaxed and happy, a simple life until Cierzo got invaded, forcing you to flee. You might just be the only survivor, or not. When below 75% HP plus 20% damage dealt. When below 50% HP, gain the Rage boon. When below 25% HP plus 0.2 attack speed. All resistances reduced by 20. Survivor is your Berserker class. You become much stronger as your health gets lower. Unfortunately, Cierzo is already destroyed in this scenario, and all you have is cloth knuckles. Also, being so weak to elements is again pretty rough. I think your best bet is to go with a spear build. Keep your health reasonably low and you could poke from afar with more impact and much better speed. Not really the Berserker way, but knuckles make it a little too easy to get hit, I feel. Corrupted. Who are you? Where are you? You don't know, but you are alive once more. Your soul is tainted by the Scourge, but you are no minion. You're back in the world for a reason, to help Ri. Permanently at full corruption. Immune to all poisons. Lastly, we have the Corrupted. This is the perfect class to use Shriek, as Plague and Poison can't even affect you. However, the start is pretty challenging. You're inside the corrupted tombs in Chersonese, and staying at 90% corruption and having to walk through more corruption can lead to all of your health leaving in an instant. I'd consider this more of a challenge, but it does make corruption builds much easier to play. Never lose that extra damage you gain from the status and focus only on the gameplay. Of course, watch out for that Shade who appears every so often, but walking around in the swamp without ever getting poisoned was something I didn't know I needed. So there you have the alternate start mod. It is a highly polished and well-made addition to the game. Iggy clearly put a lot of thought into where the new spawns would be and what equipment each would have. The added passive stats change up the game in various ways, and it's fun to figure out how you want to combat your negative while gaining the most from your buff. I would highly recommend this mod to anyone who has access to it. Starting in Cierzo can get a bit boring after the 50th time, so switch things up and create some more fun for yourself. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.